Welcome to the Leading Owls podcast, brought to you by Rice University's Doerr Institute for New Leaders. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and practical tips from successful student leaders, faculty, and staff, along with leadership experts and coaches that will help guide you in your own leadership journey. Today is the second episode in our Beer Bike series, taking you inside one of Rice's most iconic traditions and the leadership it takes to bring it to life. We're joined by Kenzie, Hanson College's Beer Bike coordinator, who's been working behind the scenes since the very start of the school year to plan one of the biggest, most complex events on campus. From managing sponsorships and budgets to coordinating large-scale events and navigating unexpected challenges, Kenzie shares what leadership really looks like when the stakes and the scale are high. We also dive into her personal journey, from feeling unsure about getting involved as a first year to finding her place, building community, and stepping into major leadership roles. If you're trying to figure out where you belong at Rice, how to lead effectively, and what it really takes to make an impact, this episode is for you. Please welcome Kenzie. Hi, Kenzie. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So you're Hanson's Beer Bike coordinator. For people outside of Rice or for students who are coming this fall, what does that role actually involve?
For people outside of Rice and people in Rice, like Beer Bike, it's a tradition that we have every year. I think for what it involves, I think a lot of people think since it's set up and it's the same thing kind of every year, they think we kind of don't do anything. But all of the planning, all of the sponsorships, like reaching out to sponsors, that starts back in August. Like when we first get to campus, at least at Hanson, us as the Beer Bike courts, we've been meeting at least once a week, every week since school started. Part of it is we're reaching out to sponsorships. And outside of Beer Bike, there's a lot of community-based activities that Beer Bike runs for Hanson. So throughout the year at different points, like we have our own personal Civil War. So it's our own water balloon fight. So Hanson has an old section and a new section. So we plan like a little, like they split off from each other and we have this big water balloon fight and we say it's to prepare us for the big Beer Bike one. So for those things, it is a lot of event planning and it's a lot of like, so we get our budget at the beginning of the year. So we have to make sure we don't spend too much too early or that we don't project to like overspend. The role involves a bunch of collaboration because at the end of the day, like Beer Bike is a campus-wide event. So we really want to make sure that everyone at Hanson, especially new students and returning students, like we have like fun Beer Bike events that are cross college or maybe evening time events that we are collaborating with other people. So that's happening in the background in January. And something that also the role involves is like with reaching out to like some of our community partners outside of Rice, it can be a lot. Sponsorships pull out. We have to make last minute changes. Like that's kind of something we're going through right now. We have one or two sponsors that we think might end up pulling out. We're going to hope for the best that they don't. But because of that, that's a separate thing. And then we also get into like smaller details that maybe people don't think about, or even down to like designing the shirts and the merch that we have for Hands and making sure that students all have the chance to submit ideas and like collaborating on what the theme is. Cause I think we are really collaborative, that we want Hanson to be like involved in like the different steps in the process. Hanson helps us pick the theme, like their ranking for it goes into picking the theme. And then I think on the internal level, a lot of collaboration with Rice, RUPD, and campus planning for our events, because these are large scale events and we want to make sure that everyone's safe. So we do have to have our event planning and have everything detailed down to like the minute. Like we have to have everyone that's caregiver trained. We have to have security. And it really has taught me a lot about working with people, as well as some of like my other like large scale planning events. But Beer Bike, most of all, the role entails like just being a community partner, honestly. I think we act as a liaison between like the greater Rice community outside of Rice, because we will have sponsors that come back year after year, interacting with Hanson, interacting with cross colleges.
What's the most stressful moment you've had in the role so far?
Being able to pivot almost, like maybe like we had an event planned and maybe someone's out of town, like one of the other Beer Bike courts, or maybe like something's not going to work the way that we envisioned it working. So I think being able to like stay calm and talk to my other coordinators in order to like make sure that the event is still going to run smoothly. And I guess a specific event that I can speak to is when we were planning we have our time trials. We have our time trials where it's a fun event to kind of get everyone hyped, but really the bikers are getting their times and seeing what it's going to be like for the actual races. So trying to plan an event at multiple stages, because we were going from Hands-In Quad to the bike track, back to Hands-In to have like our talent auction. So making sure that all of our protocols were followed, and also making sure that everyone that needed to be somewhere were there at that time. That can get a little stressful, like coordinating people. That's always very hard.
Yeah, that's very true. So you had shared that during your first year at Rice, you were really nervous about getting involved. What was going through your mind back then?
I think something that was going through my mind when I first got to campus, even before, I'm going to talk about even before O Week, and then I'll get to O Week, is that when I came for Owl Days, it was a great experience, but it was one of my first times truly seeing and experiencing Rice, and I'm so grateful for them. And I came with my family, which was also really nice to have them there. But I think because they were there, a lot of like the presentations or things that I was just with my family, which was nice. I'm always going to have their support. But since they were there, I felt like other people, they were like interacting and making all these Owl Days friends. So then when I get to campus, I'm like, I don't have any Owl Days friends. Like, I didn't meet anyone. I don't know anyone. And then getting to O Week, I think O Week was still, like, I still remember it as one of the most important transitional times. Like, I will advocate for O Week all day. I loved it. And I think because of O Week, even there's like all of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to join. I'm so excited to do this. And then I think once kind of like the homesickness and that stuff kind of settled in following, I was like, oh no, like everyone already knows each other. Like all these clubs are already formed. How am I going to join them? Like, what am I going to do? So I honestly think even though I was nervous about getting involved freshman year, I still did it. And I started with going outside of Hands-In. I think Hands-In is where I felt the most like, oh, like all the upperclassmen, like they already know each other. They've had these friendships for years. So I kind of started with branching out, which I ended up making a lot of friends at Will Rice and the South colleges, North colleges. Like for instance, like my sophomore year or freshman into sophomore year, I co-advised and I was a community facilitator at Will Rice because of like all of the connections I'd made there in the beginning. So I started with like branching out and joining other campus community organizations. Like I was a writer for the Thresher for a bit just to get out and meet people. And so going through my mind, I was just like, oh, I've done it here. And then when the end of the year came and I was like, I really want to do something at Hands-In. Like I really want to try to, I don't know, join the community here. There's like a lively community there. A lot of my friends are from Hands-In. I was like, there has to be something that I can get involved with. And I honestly started by just going to Fit Q's, which is our Friday in the Quad or Fun in the Quad. And I would just go out there and talk to new people. And then at the end of that year, I became a social coordinator, which planned Hands-In Halloween, the big public. And that truly, like, I felt like brought me into the community because I was a part of cabinet. I was going to the weekly cabinet meetings and government meetings that I wasn't going to before because I was like, oh, it'll be weird. But it's really not weird. I encourage people outside of Rice, like new students coming in, it's fine to go at your own pace, but really get involved in something. Make sure you're interacting with new people because it is nerve-wracking, but everyone is just as nervous as you. And I think that kind of helps.
Was there a specific moment you remember feeling like, okay, I belong here?
I feel like that kind of connection for me happened within the first couple of months when even though I was still getting into the groove of things, I was still like, are my classes working for me? Like the friends that I'm meeting, like is everything working for me? And I think actually this might sound counterintuitive, but I think there's a learning curve coming from like high school. I did come from a high school where I lived at school, so some of the barriers weren't there, but just like academically having that shift. So honestly, when I'm sitting in my class and I see an email come in that I got a grade back for, I think it was econ. It was something like that. It was a D2 and the grade was terrible. The grade was bad. It wasn't how I wanted to see. I was like, oh, I put so much time and so much effort into this. But then I really like leaned on like my friends, my O Week family. I reached out to the professor and like I really like worked through that challenging hard time because it was the first time I'd experienced that at Rice. And I feel like that moment having like the support of those people, even though in some people it's like something small, but I think that was like, oh, I belong at Rice. And then at Hands-In, putting myself out there and going to the Fit Q's, it was probably like a random weekday lunch. It was warm outside, sunny, and like there's these tables, like we'll put like the picnic tables together. And I think some of my close friends, like my roommates, they weren't at the table. This was probably around like maybe like October, probably somewhere around then, November. And it was a bunch of people that maybe I hadn't talked to since a week or like had a really long conversation with. But like I was able to just bring my stuff, bring my lunch, sit at the table. They're just like, oh, hi, Kenzie. Like there was no awkward pause, no awkward conversation. I was like, Hanson really is a beautiful and special place. Like that is when I was like, the community here is like unlike anything else.
I love that. That sounds so special. You said one of your biggest lessons was learning not to pick up other people's slack. What happened that taught you that?
Going back to, I think, the Hanson Public and all of the coordination that went into planning that, there were times where some of like the group members or outside people that we were working with in our group, they maybe weren't being as communicative as we wanted to be. Like there were a lot of things that we had to do. We had to have walkthroughs of the space. We had to make sure we had security hired. We had to make sure like campus planning was going to approve of this event. And leading up to that, we also wanted to do like some hands-on activities, and they were really small. And in terms of like just something cute for the community, so we did like Valentine's Day candygrams. And when we were planning this, it was like, oh yeah, we're all so excited. Like we're going to do this. We have to order the stuff though. We have to put them together. And it ended up just being me and like one of the other people and like maybe some of my friends. And like we had to do it. So I think in terms of like not picking up other people's slack, it was like I had to have like a hard conversation with someone that was my friend, because I was working in a group with my friends. And I was like, hey, like we really want, the public's coming up in about a month from this. Like we really need you to be here and like be active and like not going off to the side. And I think it was just a hard conversation, because like having to like work in that group and even working in groups in class, I think maybe some people have the tendency like, oh, like no one's done anything. Like, let me just do everything. But you can't do everything. I know I can't do everything. I have all of my other classes to worry about as well. So really, it was really a big lesson that I think I'd learned in like multiple different ways. And I think because of that, I'm able to communicate better.
How do you balance holding people accountable without micromanaging them?
This is very hard. Like, I think this is something that like I think leaders still work on to this day. But I think the way that like I balance holding people accountable without micromanaging them is, for instance, I think something that I've gotten into doing is like I'll text them, and instead of coming from like, oh, like I need you to do this right now, I really do try to go kind of not out of my way, but like just trying to be sincere. I'm like, hey, is everything going okay? Are you super busy? Would you want to like meet up for lunch or get something, like just talk about anything? And then I think from there, like just checking in and then saying like, hey, like I noticed like this needs to be done. I might even start with, oh, like I found like, say it's a form someone needs to fill out, or if it's something that they need to post, I'm like, oh, hey, like I found this thing and you can use this template and like work on it. Or, oh, I know this person and they also did this in the past. Maybe reaching out to them, they might have some tips for that. Because I think micromanaging can cause, I don't want to spread myself too thin. I want to make sure I'm being like a quality like leader in the different groups and spaces that I'm in. So like being able to like have that balance between like being able to talk to people and communicate with them versus just telling them what to do all the time. Because we all are like capable and competent people at Rice. I know we're all here for a reason. So like I know you have the ability to do it. We all have the ability to do it. Some people might just need like, I guess, a little more help to get there.
You've helped organize major events like Hanson Halloween and then, of course, Bear Bike. What does planning at that scale actually require?
Planning at that scale is very, it seems very daunting at first. I can start with like Hanson Halloween. Hanson Halloween, it like something we didn't even know, because we pick our date for the public months in advance. So we're getting close to the date and we're like, it's daylight savings time. Hanson Halloween falls on daylight savings time, which means we're technically the only public that ends at 3 and not 2 because of the hour jump. And we were talking about it, and even planning small details like that, we were like, oh, we didn't know that. We weren't planning on that happening. From there, we were talking, for instance, we're working with RUPD because Hanson Halloween and the Publix are really large scale events. Over 200 people, over like close to like capacities of 600 to 700 people, at least at Hanson. Like our capacity might have even been bigger than that like we were allowed to give tickets for. So working with all of these people that are coming in, we have to plan ticketing. So I know a lot of people talk about like the forms crashing because like so many people are rushing to get in to try and get a ticket. And they're like, what did you guys do? We're like, we did nothing. Like, it's just too many people trying to get on, but we're facilitating that. We're facilitating like it really takes up a lot of time and setting up and planning in terms of even like day of logistics. But going back, like leading up to it, we're meeting with campus facilities because we have to make sure that we have custodial workers just in case anything happens. There's a spill. Like we have food and we have like water jugs. We just want to make sure that everyone's still being safe. We don't want anyone to slip and fall. And then we also have to work on like, okay, after the event ends, okay, South Servery is the servery for that Sunday. We need to have all the tables and chairs back and have everything kind of set up the way it was before. So a lot of the, like, I think small details that like maybe people don't notice, like a random thing that we didn't plan for and we didn't know. We were like, how are we going to get the AC down in Commons? Like, how are we going to get the lights off? Like, we don't know where the light switch is. And I think just small things like that always, I don't know, they give me a little laugh. It's like, they're just things that like people wouldn't think about that go into planning it. People don't want to go to a public with all the big overhead lights on. The planning really does require like working with other people. For Beer Bike is a very collaborative event, especially like going to the races and like facilitating people. And I think something that a lot of people don't know is that Hanson as a college, we actually plan the color war. That is fully us, like the big powder festival that we have. Hanson plans all of it. Like we pick the location, we buy the powder, we get everything for that. And we have to go through like all of like the reimbursement processes and everything and trying to get spaces approved for it, because something that came up for us that didn't come up for other people are that they're working on like the new like RMC student center. So we can't use Central Quad. So like now we're like, oh, let's survey campus. Like what other places can we do this and make sure it's still safe? And so planning's like even that at that scale, because that's going to be an event with like hundreds and hundreds of people from different colleges, like all in like a tiny little space, and like working with the other beer bike cords. Like you need to come pick up your stuff and it's heavy. Like you should bring something to carry it back. Working with my other beer bike cords, I think it's just been such an excellent group and we've all like really kind of stayed on top of it. And I think it's because we started so early. We started back in August, September, really making sure that like we could put on like the best event possible. And something I think that also people forget is although Beer Bike has things set out that are the same every year, like the week leading up to it, all like the fun traditions that we do, sometimes it's hard to plan like a fun event. We're like, what can we do? Like, so we've come up with some things. We're going to have like a inflatable like bounce house one of the days, and like coming up with stuff like that. We were like, what goes with our theme? Like, what can we do? Even small details like that go into like, I think giving people like a really fun experience and one that hopefully they won't forget. It really requires a lot of things, large scale and on like a smaller, like detail based things that I think other people may not notice, but they matter to like us as like a team, and they matter to like me when I was a social and in all of like the leadership and club activities that I'm in.
There is so much involved in Beer Bike. It's an incredible event. Like I can't even imagine. For first years who are just starting to get involved, what advice would you give them?
Like during O Week, like we have our heart talks, and like there are like such a wide range of like activities and things available to you. But don't spread yourself too thin. I think it's important to like join all of these different clubs and like make these new friends. But I think knowing when and what group and like what place is still serving you and is still like bringing you enjoyment versus like doing things kind of just to do them. Being able to like do that and know that is a really like important skill to have that like I picked up. I think for a little bit I was kind of getting into trying so hard to like find my place for a bit that then I was like, okay, now I found it. Maybe I can take a step back now from some of these things. And I also think with that though, go into everything with an open mind. I think there are a lot of clubs and activities, maybe even things at Hanson that like I started going to that I was like, I never would have thought like that's something that I would have enjoyed. And I did. I've had a great time doing them. So it's like both sides of it. Like, yes, go out and do things, have an open mind, but also like kind of once you've settled in, once you found your place, or maybe if you haven't, still like knowing what you need to do for yourself. Like I think there's so many resources and people that you can talk to. All of those are a genuine resource for new students that everyone should reach out to.
So now we have some rapid fire questions to end the interview with. You ready?
Yes.
What is your favorite Hanson tradition?
My favorite Hanson tradition is because we have our committee CNCD, which is college night, but the other half of it is Crane Day. And Crane Day it's such a small thing. We make a whole deal out of it with like our hard hats and things like that. But basically a couple years ago, maybe 15 or 20, when they were building not new section, but old new section. We've had a lot of new sections, but when they were building old new section, there was a crane in our quad, and all the Hansons, since they were worried, they were like, oh no, it's going to hit our building. They kind of just like came down to the quad and they just played music and like hung out together. And I think something about that just really encompasses like the Hanson community to me.
That's such a unique tradition. I've heard of Crane Day, and it's amazing. It's so quirky. It's such a Rice thing. What is one word to describe your experience at Rice?
Invigorating.
That's great. I haven't gotten that one yet. What is your go-to study spot?
I love the business library, and then they have a row of single booths. They're not dark. It gives mood lighting over there in that corner, but I love that spot.
What's the best meal you've had at a servery?
My favorite thing from the servery, or like the best meal I've had at the servery, there was like this, they were making these bowls, and it was like fried rice. It was like some kind of like orange chicken or like teriyaki chicken, something like that. And then like some broccoli, and they had like some drizzle on it. Yeah, I don't remember all the things that were in it, but I remember really enjoying it. I think it was actually from this past year. South Servery has been pretty good this year.
If you could change one thing about campus life, what would it be?
I think this is something that we're always working towards at Hanson and probably at other colleges, is really still making sure the OC community is still involved. And I feel that now as an OC student and like still being involved. So like, it's like less of a change, more of like something that's always there to improve. It's just more incorporation of the OC students and off-campus people. But I think overall it's still good. But I think it's harder for some people that maybe like aren't as involved as me to still like kind of want and like find that reason and why to come back to campus.
That's such a good insight. I haven't gotten that one yet. And finally, what is your favorite part of Beer Bike?
It's in the morning when we're waking everyone up with music. Everyone's just like in hands and quad and like in the same shirts. We're playing music. We're playing, what's the song? It's like everybody's hands go up and then we go beer bike. And I know everyone does it, but I don't know. I just love that moment right there. Like everyone's up there. It's early in the morning, but we're getting ready. We're getting excited. We're there to support like our bikers, our bike team, our chug team. And yeah.
Beer Bike is coming up. We're so excited. It's going to be another great year this year. And thank you for everything that you do for Rice and for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for the Leading Owls podcast. We will be back next week with more leadership journeys and tips to share. New episodes release each Wednesday. For more information on the Doerr Institute for New Leaders and our free leader development programs for Rice students, please visit doerr.rice.edu.